The Akara Seller's Story. Episode 2. Years rolled by in Umute, and the Akara seller, Grace, Mama Akara, grew older. Her hair began to turn gray, her back slightly bent, and her once bright eyes carried a constant tiredness. Still, every dawn, she rose to light her fire and grind beans. It was no longer just about feeding her children, it had become her only way to stay alive. Her daughter Esther grew into a young woman. But instead of blossoming in joy, she carried the scars of shame. She never returned to school. By 16, she was already helping her mother full-time at the akara stand. Villagers often whispered that she had wasted her youth beside the frying pan. Some men began to hover around her, offering money and gifts in exchange for her company. One of them was a wealthy palm wine tapper named Samuel. He was old enough to be Esther's father but promised to take care of her if she agreed to be his second wife. Grace begged her daughter to refuse, saying, "My child, don't sell your body for food. Poverty is bitter, but dignity is sweeter." But hunger has a way of silencing warnings. Esther began sneaking off to meet Samuel. Soon, she was pregnant. The news spread through the village like wildfire. People mocked Grace, even her daughter, Akara Pikin, had spoiled herself. Grace wept bitterly, blaming herself. She remembered the day she saw Esther washing Samuel's clothes by the stream. She wanted to scream, but the words refused to leave her mouth. She had lost her daughter, not by death, but by poverty. Ruth, the youngest, was no better. Sickly from birth, she had frequent fevers. Grace often carried her on her back to the local clinic, only to be turned away for lack of money. One night, during a heavy rain, Ruth's fever worsened. Grace knelt by her mat, fanning her with a piece of cardboard, whispering, "Please, my child, don't leave me like your father did." But by dawn, Ruth's breathing had stopped. That morning, instead of frying akara, the smoke that rose from Grace's hut was the smoke of mourning. Neighbors came, shook their heads, and left. Few offered help, most only whispered, "Her suffering is too much." Grace buried her little girl with her own hands. The ground was wet and muddy, but she dug with determination, her tears mixing with the earth. Her son David remained missing. Sometimes, strangers passing through the village claimed they had seen him in Lagos, hustling at a motor park, carrying loads for travelers. Once, someone even told her he had been arrested with a gang of boys. Grace's heart broke every time. She wanted to believe her son would return, but deep down, she feared Lagos had swallowed him. Esther eventually gave birth to a baby boy. Samuel, the palm wine tapper, refused to take responsibility. "She is not my wife," he said coldly. Esther brought the baby home, and once again, Grace's tiny hut became crowded with another mouth to feed. She watched her daughter, barely 18, cradle a child, and her heart sank. Poverty had repeated itself in the next generation. One evening, as Grace sat by her akara stand, oil splashing onto her worn wrapper, she stared into the fire and whispered to herself, "Is this my destiny? To suffer until the grave?" Her hands trembled, not just from the heat, but from the weight of life's cruelty. The villagers still bought her akara, but she was no longer just Mama Akara. She had become a symbol of endurance, suffering, and broken dreams. Children grew up seeing her by the roadside, some even mocking her, while others pitied her. But no one truly helped her. And so, every morning, the sizzle of akara continued. Every night, the tears of a forgotten widow wet her pillow. Grace lived on, not because life was kind to her, but because she had no choice but to endure. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, share and follow me for more stories on the Akara Seller's Story Episode 3. Bye for now.